welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. Actually, we see what's going on on our lovely island of Fawnhollow today, where, you know, we're in the year of a rabbit now. Happy, you know, Chinese, Lunar New Year, I should say. Because, you know, not everyone's Chinese, of course, who watches these videos. And if you were, that would be, well, I wouldn't say it's strange, but I would say sort of like demographically impossible. I would almost argue, but, you know, who knows? Be a happy Lunar New Year to you, Xin Yan Kuai Le, Gong Xi Fa Cai, and all that. I think I did most of those greeting things yesterday, but we're going to be doing most of the talking about sort of thing today. Although there's not really much to talk about because I didn't really do that much this year compared to other previous years, I suppose, for Chinese New Year. But anyway, hello there everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, 6:09 PM on Monday, January 23rd, 2023. And I think in previous years I have spoken about these sort of things, about celebrating Chinese New Year, etc., etc. Not that I particularly remember exactly the things I've spoken about before, so, you know, maybe if you've been here for over a year and, you know, you have perfect recollection of exact anecdotes I spoke about last year, you might find myself repeating a few things here and there, which I can only apologise for. But apart from that, I'm just going to tell random stories, to be honest. But yeah, Chinese New Year, you know, if you didn't know, it happened, well, kind of yesterday. See, it's a weird thing because, of course, you know, me being Chinese and, you know, celebrating, you know, Chinese New Year, is sort of just like, I'm not sure exactly when I'm meant to celebrate it, because, you know, normal New Year, you know it, you celebrate it exactly at the turn of midnight when it comes, when on the day of the New Year itself. And you'd be like, okay, so do you celebrate it on the actual day of the New Year itself, I suppose, you know, for you? And I'm like, well, no, because not for whatever reason, because it makes no sense, because obviously it's not too centralised, I suppose, to China, at least my association with Chinese New Year, for me personally. So, you know, I kind of like celebrate it at like 4 PM, technically, the day before Chinese New Year, because that's when midnight rolls over, you know, in China, right? So it kind of makes sense of that, which gives it a bit of a weird celebration things, where I'm kind of celebrating it on, kind of like fully celebrating it on the eve of Chinese New Year, and then on the Chinese New Year itself is like you celebrate it kind of again, despite the fact it's already kind of happened, but also kind of not. It's a little bit confusing in that sense, and, you know, it's a very unique problem to have, or I should say, like maybe a bit of like an esoteric problem to have, where it's sort of like, you know, it's not that common, because you'd have to be celebrating, I suppose, a holiday which is time dependent and in another country from the country where you'd be celebrating a holiday of which I'm not sure how many holidays that applies to. I'm sure there's quite a few, to be honest. I'm not going to pretend I'm not ignorant of, you know, the huge amounts of different like cultures and traditions around the world. But it, you know, maybe that if it's very niche appeal, you know, explanation, you know, you can relate to it, and you'll be like, oh yeah, you know, that happened to me with whatever XYZ or something, and, you know, maybe we can have a small bonding moment. I don't really know what I'm doing. It's not really much of a bonding moment, again, if it's one-sided, but still. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, you have a rabbit this year. You know, and as we looked up like 3 episodes ago, and I've mostly forgotten, the rabbit's meant to represent like elegance and something, like gentleness, I think. And I can't really remember much about the rabbit and the race. I think the rabbit and the race got over the, you know, okay, bit, you know, TLDR. There's a big like the history, or I suppose the lore behind lore. What am I saying? The story behind the Chinese zodiac animals is because there was a great race, and the first 12 animals to cross this river basically end up being the ones which became part of a calendar, I suppose, or the Chinese calendar, and they each did it a different way. Anyway, the rabbit was the 4th one, I believe, to cross the river, which is surprisingly high up for such a small animal. And if I recall, according to the story, the rabbit crossed because she was able to find like a load of rocks to hop across the river with, or something, you know, as opposed to the ox just sort of bulldozing away through the rat, you know, hitching a ride. Who was third? The tiger, I don't know, just being a strong swimmer. Something like that. But the rabbit didn't even swim, just sort of like hopped along rocks the entire time. So there you go, you know, crafty little rabbit. Well, not as crafty as a rabbit, as a rat, I suppose, but, you know, shall we say innovative, because crafty's got like quite like a negative connotation to it, doesn't it? Anyway, yeah. So the last time we celebrated your rabbit, let me think, 12 years ago, I was 13. Going on 30. I don't remember what I did. To be honest, I'm not sure if I'll even have pictures. Let's see, that's 2011. There's a decent chance I might have photos from back then in 2011 on my Google Photos. Let's see, 2011. Let's see if I can remember this year and see what I did in it. Okay, March 26th. That was a holiday. Okay. So I know on March 26th I went on a school holiday. I don't know genuinely otherwise. It does not seem like I was in China. I don't know if we did anything particularly big. I'd imagine we did, but genuinely I don't remember. It was the days before when I really had much in the way of using cloud photo storage. I'm trying to think how to even phrase that slightly. Anyway, I don't know any people who are rabbits, zodiac rabbits. So it would be how many years my senior or older? Wait, well, hold on. I can't do the maths in my head. No, let me think. Rabbit would be 2 years older than me? No, 2 years younger than me. Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I don't think I know anyone who's a rabbit. Are they rabbits? Maybe. Anyway, and I also, you know, apparently, like, it being your year is actually technically meant to be unlucky, isn't it, right? And then, like, you're meant to be wearing, like, the like red or jade or something that wards off the unluckiness, which, you know, I didn't actually realise. Until much more recently than you might expect. Or maybe it's just like different traditionally, because I feel like people always celebrate when it's their year. It's like, oh, it's my year, you know, now it's my celebration for this year or whatever, or what have you. At least that's been my attitude to it. Or maybe I've sort of just been like sticking my fingers in my ears with anything that comes to like bad luck or superstition. I'm like, who cares? Anyway, oh yeah, sorry. Chinese New Year anecdotes. Like, I think I've only got like this one anecdote. About like Chinese New Year, because as I said, I used to go to on Saturday. I used to go to a Chinese school in the mornings, basically to, you know, practice learning Chinese. It was basically just, you know, that. I've also often used to be like big celebrations when it came to that. Like I remember like numerous times like lion dancers came in to do a performance around Chinese New Year time. Makes sense. I don't know if it was actually on Chinese New Year itself. Well, why is this here? Oh, because we got coconuts up here. I guess we'll just sell those coconuts. We sell the star fragments, we don't need them. And I also forgot to put that stuff away in my... I thought I taught me to put them away. Maybe I didn't. Oh yeah, wait, we're Nook Mel mission farming, so I actually completely forgot about that. But we used to, like, also go to, like, they always used to host these big parties at, like, certain areas, to celebrate, you know, the New Year. Okay, so Brewster, talk to people and snowflakes, we can do that. Oh, if only we did that a bit sooner. And the only one I particularly remember, the only big party I remember is, I don't even remember where it was. I think it took place in like a school somewhere, like some other school. And then in that school, there was like this drama area, or like a hall, as it's often called in British parlance, whereas basically there was just like a drama stage and stuff, and I just remember a load of kids being there, and most of the kids I didn't know all that well from Chinese school. You know, it's a lot harder to know like your classmates when you only see them like once every week, I suppose, as opposed to every single day. You know, at that age, especially because I was a lot younger than a lot of the people in my class at that age. But you know, I still managed to have a good time. You know, I mean, when you're young, you kind of have a good time doing whatever. I think there's like a piano in that room or whatever. Anyway, the only anecdote I have really from that is the fact that there was lamb and mint crisps. Were the only crisp flavour there, and I was like, I've never heard of them before. Tried it, and I was like, this does not slap. This is not good. I would say, for me personally, depends how much you like lamb and mint. Lamb, I would say, is my least favourite meat, and mint is fine. I would say as a herb. I mean, generally, my taste of flavours is lamb quite different to anything. But I remember eating it and being like, not really a big fan. You know, I would not choose to eat this again, because at that time I really like crisps, to be honest. Cheese and onion crisps especially, and I thought they were cheese and onion. I was like, and it just, you know, wasn't for me. And I still had like 3 bags anyway for whatever reason. I also remember we were eating food, you know, all us children, because I don't know, all the adults and children always eat separately for whatever reason. Like, and we were just sitting in the hall. I don't know, we spent all the time in the hall. Actually, there's not back. It's from this day for whatever reason. I remember eating with like one of my like a family friend actually who was there as well. I remember she like missed her mouth or something when she was eating something. She was like, she stuck like her I don't know why we were using forks or whatever, but she stuck her fork like into a chicken drumstick and like went for a mouth or whatever, and she just missed and just like threw it over the back of her head, which is sort of like I don't know how it happens. And her sense of proprioception definitely messed up. And you might be like, how did that happen? Well, we were eating in the dark for whatever reason. I don't know why. You know, us kids just doing whatever we do. We're just like, let's turn out the lights, and then we did. And there was generally no good reason. We just did it because it was fun, and it was a bit fun, you know. We were just eating in the pitch black. That's not how you say that, in pitch black for really no apparent reason. And there's the final anecdote which I think I've told before, definitely, is for whatever reason, us kids were just like, oh, we're piling up these random chairs they got, like the chairs for the hall, because this might be very quintessentially British thing, but in the hall is where they have morning assemblies, where basically the entirety of a school comes together in the morning. You get like morning report style things, and you'll be like, oh, XYZ, and you get like awards given out for if like someone's done like some big thing or whatever recently. But the hall is often also used either for like PE sort of stuff, physical education, gym, or drama is often the case, because there's normally like a stage or something and a performance on, and so you often need, right, it's basically just a big old space or whatever. So oftentimes, you need to alternate between having a load of chairs out for people to sit down and have your morning assemblies in, or a big open space. So that's why there's often like chairs like piled up on the sides. At least in my school, we had them on like these fancy little racks, which sat outside underneath like a tarp cover for whatever reason. Anyway, the school had them all like piled up in the corners, and I remember we were like unpiling them. I don't even know what we were doing. We were like making forts or whatever with the chairs, and then for whatever reason, some kid was like, hey, let's pile them all in front of the doors, and then another kid was like, no, let's pile them all in front of the fire exits. Why? I genuinely don't know. And then of course, us all being kids being like, woo, yeah, let's do it, haha, it'll be really funny, when we can't exit from a fire or whatever, because there's a load of chairs in front of the way of the doors. And then I remember an adult came in being like, what are you doing? And then it's like, oh, we're putting the chairs in front of the fire exits, and they're like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that. And we were like, ah, and then we removed them. But that's all there is to the story. It's not some big thing where we rebelled. We're like, no, screw you, we're gonna keep these chairs here. We were like, yeah, we probably should, and to be fair. But it's as I said, when you're a child, a lot of the times the gravity of certain situations don't really quite sink in. So of course in your head you'll be like, haha, it's funny, we'll be trapped if there was a fire. But me as an adult thinking, be like, oh my god, that's not funny. The worst prank ever, And I'm not gonna say I'm completely free from guilt, because of course I also probably participated in like moving chairs around properly. I do have a distinct memory of me most of that day just sort of sitting on the stage, just watching things going on. I was quite quiet back then, to be fair. I mean, even now I'm like somewhat quiet. I speak when I want to, and then speak when I don't need to. No, and I don't speak when I don't need to. This is how it is. I'm sure I speak also when I don't need to, and sometimes don't speak when I should. But that's just life. There's only 4 combinations of that anyway. But yeah. But those are basically only my 3 only anecdotes. I think we also played like It, or Tag, or I forgot what the other like regional variations of that game, playground game, are sometimes called. And I don't remember anything. I don't remember there being a lion like dance thing. I do remember in Chinese school where there would often be like I don't know if it was just a Chinese New Year, but there'd be times where there would be like poetry competitions where someone from each class would come and read out a poem in front of like the entire school or whatever. And I remember I had to do it once. I really didn't want to do it. And anyway, most of our performances are very strange, I would say. Like I remember one time where there was just like 5 kids who like dressed up in like full like bunny outfits, kind of. Like, they were like wore like these bright white like t-shirts and shorts, and were like tights, and they had like white face paint on, like a rabbit and rabbit ears and everything. Because I think they sang, because there's a very popular Chinese nursery rhyme called like I don't know what's called, but it's called like rabbits or white rabbits. What's it? How did it go? But the only last one I can think of is about the little mouse, which is not right. I 爱吃萝卜，爱吃菜，难道都竖起来? Anyway, it's about a rabbit. It's basically just describing rabbits or something. I think there's also another one called 5 Rabbits, but I don't remember how that one goes. Anyway, they did a performance based on that. It was very strange, like in a Chinese opera style or something, from what I recall. Well, I shouldn't say it was strange necessarily, but it was sort of like, wow, they went very hard for like a poetry reading competition or something of that ilk. Anyway, I had to do that once, and I had to read one. I had to read out a poem about crossing the street. And I can't remember very much how it goes, except for it goes 过马路, which means cross the street. And then I can't remember the rest of it, but it's something like you have to wait for the light to turn green or whatever, and it says you can cross or something, and look left and right. Anyway, I had like a little traffic light thing, and I was not really much of a wave performer back then. I remember that. And I remember, doing it, and then just like it ending and being like, I don't know what to do now. Do I need to move this traffic light off screen? Not off screen. Oh, what am I saying? Like off a stage? Well, it wasn't even a stage. We were just in a hall. And when I tried to pick it up, and then it like fell over and broke. And then I was like, oh no, this is mortifying. When I was like 5 years old, this is like the worst possible thing which could ever happen to me. Now I look back at it and being like, that's kind of funny. Well, it's not even funny. It's just like, it just happened, I suppose. I mean, I guess it's like mildly funny, but you know, if you were like to come up to me and be like, oh, you know, in a vacuum, is like a prop falling over funny? I'd be like, I guess not. It's just kind of like a thing which happens, I guess. And, you know, very sort of like nihilistic sort of standpoint, you know. Well, it's not even nihilistic. It's just sort of like I don't know. I don't want to say realistic because I'm not sure if that's realistic. Like, I can understand, you know, if things going wrong is funny. But I suppose, you know, I tend to, you know, look at that and neither think of it as particularly funny or not funny. It's just, you know, it happened. If anything, me talking about this story in like such a weird detached tone, I think is even funnier for some reason to me. Which is some sort of weird level of meta humour, which I'm not sure I'm that accustomed to. Anyway, well, that's all I remember about that. I have basically no other sort of Chinese New Year stories to talk about that I can think of off the top of my head. I'm sure there's more. But Year of Rabbit is not one which I have any significant memories of. Let me think. I guess I was 2. No, 3. No, wait, 1? That doesn't make sense. I can't. No, I was 2. No, I was like 1.5, I suppose, when the first Year of a Rabbit happened. Obviously, I have no memory of that because I was way too young. Isn't it like formative memories only really start happening when you're like 4 or something? But to be fair, I do have a random formative memory when I was 2 for my 2nd birthday. And every time I remember it gets fuzzier and fuzzier, which is weird to say because I remember, especially when I was like 9, when I was remembering, I was like, oh, this is so crystal clear, I can remember what happens. And now I try and remember, I'm like, I got like the vague ideas, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm not remembering the original memory anymore. I'm remembering like a recording of a memory in my head of based on what I think it is, which is technically what most memories are, or all memories are in the first place. So I guess there's not really much loss there, but still. I forgot we need to catch more snowflakes, don't we? But yeah, where was I going with this? I don't really know. It's a Year of Rabbit, so you know, it's a bit hard for me to say anything. It's going to be a bit hard for me to say anything, particularly until we start getting into years where I have like photos from whatever I was doing on Chinese New Year that day. Which is not going to be for a while. So maybe I had to wait until it like loops around to like a Year of a Rat again or something next year. Maybe not Year of a Rat. That's probably a bit too far away. Yeah, I am genuinely trying. I genuinely cannot think of anything. But I did on the Year of Rabbit. I got nothing against rabbits. Rabbits are awesome. Rabbits are cute. It's just, you know, it's a bit thing where like, I don't have any... I cannot think of anyone off the top of my head who is a rabbit. No, actually, no, I can think of someone. But there's a family member who's a rabbit. But, you know, I don't really... I'm not here to tell anecdotes about my family members or anything. Unless they're sort of like in passing relationship to the anecdote about me or whatever. I was not even narcissistic or anything. They got their own stories. They can choose whether to save them or not. So I know one person who's a rabbit off the top of my head. But none of my friends I can think of are rabbits. Oh, I didn't need to swap it. And I have no major memories or anything about the Year of a Rabbit from last year. Not last year. 12 years ago. You know, it's a bit interesting the more I think about it. The fact that the Chinese zodiac has chosen to do it on a yearly scale rather than within a year, you know? 12 years is a long time. You might be like, no, it's not. It'll pass in a flash. Okay, it does. 12 years is both simultaneously a long time and not a long time. Like, on a grand scale of things, even when you're like 100, that's still like a tenth of your life. Like, more than a tenth of your life. That's still a reasonable period of time. And when you're like 12, that's your entire lifespan. Which is even wilder to think about. Okay, I'm trying to find another snowflake before I go sell all these flowers, which are clogging up my inventory. Just so we can get the Nook Mile missions. And we might get the fruit one back again, which would be absurd, but... Possible. I've yet to see person had smart bullet. Are there no snowflakes? They just don't exist. Hello? Oh, wonderful. But yeah. You have a rabbit. Maybe it's got some special significance to you. Maybe you are a rabbit, in which case, you know, happy year to you. Maybe you really like rabbits, in which case, go you, I suppose. I'm not sure if you really have much in the way of like significance, I suppose, with it, if you just like rabbits, but you know, you know, I'm not here to stop you liking rabbits. You can like whatever you want, to be honest. Life is full of things worth liking for, you know. I also feel like my throat feels a bit weird today, doesn't it? Doesn't it feel like I'm speaking a little bit weirdly? Not weirdly necessarily, but I feel like the timbre of my throat is a little bit off. My voice even. You don't say timber with your throat, it doesn't make sense. Apparently we must have not cleared these out for ages. Let's not sell those. Those are probably the only branches we've got, I'd imagine. But yeah, anyway, happy ever rabbit to you. You know, let's hope it's one full of auspicious, prosperous charm for you all. And I'm going to probably start rounding off this episode here. I don't know if I'm going to make it in time, but if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling. Likes, comments, subscription, shares are greatly appreciated. Join me Dear Darling Discord. Follow me on Twitter down below. Hope we can see each other again. But for now, it's our farewell. So until next time. Hold on. Bye-bye for now. And happy you have a rabbit. Woo!